it represents.
Okay, so Saturn is a very important, in fact, it represents your profession, okay? Saturn is the main significator, if you want to call it so, of your profession. Depending on what planets are affecting your Saturn, it tells you a lot about your profession, okay? And you said that, was it Lucy? I think it was Lucy. You saying that Saturn is a malefic and gives you negative results. I think you're saying. I don't. Who was the one just talking? Sorry.
It was me, but I'm not sure if it gives negative effects to everyone, just that it can do.
You're right. It's correct. It can because it is considered a malefic. Okay. Um. It also represents hardships and diseases. Therefore, it is a malefic. And when I say malefic, it definitely means that it can give you difficulties. It also represents pain. It represents delays, hardships, but it also represents your career. Okay, because I'm very big on talking about career. Okay, Saturn becomes a very important planet. I've posted some videos on Saturn and their conjunctions. Okay, whatever planets are influencing your Saturn in your birth chart, okay, will tell you a lot about your career. What I want to talk about today is Ketu. And if you have if you have studied Western astrology, you're probably familiar with the term South Node. The South Node of the Moon is also known as Ketu. Ketu, when Ketu or the South Node, when it sits with your Saturn, as you can see in this birth chart, sitting right next to it's sitting right next to Saturn, right? Because Saturn represents your profession, whatever planet it comes in contact with is going to affect your profession. Let's go over Ketu or the South Node, okay? What it represents. Um, does anyone have any idea what Ketu represents or the South Node of the Moon? If you guys have studied um, Vedic astrology, no? Okay. So Ketu, I'm gonna go over some positive things and some negative things. Okay. So basically, some pros and some cons of Ketu, what it can represent. Ketu is Ketu is the significator, or it represents spirituality and detachment. In one word, if you wanna know what Ketu represents, huge significator of spirituality and detachment. Okay. When Ketu is connected to your profession, and when Ketu is active in your birth chart, it can literally detach you from your career. Okay? What that means, it can take your job away from you. Ketu also represents breaks. It can bring you it can bring you a break in your career. Say if you're doing your job or whatever, you could be doing your business. All of a sudden, when Ketu's operating, could be laid off, could also be fired, depending on what other planets are acting on this conjunction. Okay. So basically it's a significator of detachment, breaks, and people with Saturn Ketu conjunction often experience a lot of breaks because it represents breaks. They experience a lot of breaks in their career. They could be they could be going through a profession, all of a sudden you see could either be laid off, as I said, or because I just told you it represents detachment and spirituality, when Ketu becomes active, when it gets active, it can become active in two different ways. Either your job could be taken from you, or your profession could be taken from you, or as I said, Ketu also represents spirituality. It's also possible that you become so detached and spiritual that you end up just quitting your job, or you could just give up what you're doing. It can also de-link, okay? It can de-link you from your profession. It can take you into a completely different stream because it represents detachment. It can detach you from your career depending on what other transits or what other planets, what other aspects are affecting this conjunction. It can also make you very spiritual and you end up leaving your profession. Now, because Ketu represents spirituality and Saturn is sitting with your Ketu in your birth chart, say you're an engineer, and the kind of engineering you're doing doesn't really have much to do with Ketu. It is very possible that during this time period when Ketu becomes active, you leave your job or you change your profession and go into a profession that is related to Ketu. Ketu, for example, represents anything that is spiritual. Yoga teachers, astrologers, tarot card readers, because Ketu also represents the occult, okay, spirituality, anything that's related to the occult. This person could make a shift or could all of a sudden decide to make a move into a profession that is related to Ketu, which is the occult, something that's spiritual. Does any one of you know anyone who's got this combination? Ever seen a birth chart of Saturn where Saturn is sitting with Ketu? No. Now Ketu also represents. Okay, 1 second, I think I just got a message. Discipline and delays. Okay, that was before. No, I got no. Right. I'll tell you a couple more professions that Ketu represents. And this is actually one of the most damaging connections or most damaging. Give me 1 second. One of the most damaging conjunctions that you find in a birth chart, simply because it represents detachment and cuts. Like it will de-link you from your profession. Ketu represents anything that's behind the scenes. Okay. If you don't want to talk about spirituality, if you don't want to talk about anything that's related to the occult, if you want to stay within the realm of materialistic things, to first make a birth chart. Jen, just send me an email or I will send you the link to the videos, okay? So back to Saturn and Ketu conjunction. Besides the besides the spiritual realm, if you want to talk about something that's more so materialistic, Saturn and Ketu, what does Ketu represent? Anything that's behind the scenes, as I just said, something that can't really be seen. Okay. Coders. Imagine someone's making a website, if someone's creating a software. What they do is they go behind the scenes, because what you see, when I say behind the scene, what you really see is the user interface. And what's happening behind the user interface is the code. So people writing scripts, JavaScript, C++, Python, God knows what, okay, which is happening behind the scenes, which you don't really see. Also seen from Ketu. You can see coders, software developers are also seen from Saturn and Ketu. Okay, so when Saturn is sitting with Ketu, this person can make a very good programmer, because computer programmer requires knowledge, and application of codes, which is happening behind the scene. Ketu also represents the medical field. Okay. Now, I told you, Ketu represents an end, like something coming to an end. Therefore, when Ketu becomes active, when it's setting with your Saturn, it can bring your profession to an end. Okay. So you can also tell this person who's got this. Of course, you're gonna have to look at other conjunctions, other placements, and other aspects. When Saturn is sitting with Ketu, okay, because Ketu represents alongside detachment, breaks, spirituality. It also represents end, because I said whenever Ketu becomes active, it can end your profession. Okay, because it represents the end. You can also you will also see people with this conjunction who are involved in professions that bring some sort of that bring things to an end. Like doctors bring diseases to an end, right? Lawyers who will bring litigation cases to an end. Okay, I'm trying to make you understand why Ketu represents lawyers, and it also represents doctors. Anything in the medical field will represent Ketu. So Saturn and Ketu, doctors are also seen. Okay, so Saturn and Ketu, Saturn profession, Ketu medical. Saturn and Ketu are also seen medical profession, lawyers, very good doctors, lawyers. Because Ketu represents spirituality, as I told you, yoga instructors, although instructors you need there's some other planetary influence that you would require. Okay, that what you would require to make you an instructor. But Ketu itself will help you if you're trying to make a career in anything that is spiritual, like yoga or even spirituality itself. Meditation, for example. Right? Someone just